Good morning, CrossFit Linchpin. Today is April 21st. Time is flying by. The point of today's show, podcast, video, whatever we want to call it, is, I say if you have a question or topic for the podcast, shoot me an email to info@crossfitlinchpin.com and I will just put podcast in the subject line and I'll log it for a future show. Well, this is one of those ones that rolled in. So this is from a gentleman by the name of Matthew, and Matthew writes, question for you. I can't squat at all, and I'm in a tremendous amount of pain, and it's from hip tendonitis. So I'm very limited when it comes to CrossFit. My question is, what are my thoughts on a sled push and or pulls or drags to work my lower body without having to hinge or squat? Is it possible to stay functional and live a healthy, successful life without squatting? Maybe using sleds and a GHD, ? So, we've got an individual, serious illness, injury I should say, can't squat, and it sounds like he's kind of saying he's not going to be able to squat just for a short period of time, but maybe this is something for the remainder of his days, and so therefore would sled drags and things of that nature, push and pulls, work for him. So anyway, the short answer is, short answers are not my specialty. Short answer is yes, it would. I mean, if the nature of his question we have to assume is accurate and he cannot squat, period. That means we can't play with the loading to make him squat. We can't change his hip position. We can't have him do box squats. I'm going to assume that step-ups are no good, that walking lunges are no good, that whatever the normal variety of things that we would try to get some sort of flexion and extension at the knees and hips to get him below parallel, if all of those things 100% are off the table, and that's what we have to accept, then the question becomes, if we utterly and completely remove squatting from your life, can you be healthy? Yes, but obviously not as healthy as you would be if you were allowed to squat in any one of those varieties. I think there is still a tremendous amount of head-to-toe strength and benefit from doing exactly what I recommended. I think he's on the right track. Prowler pushes, sled drags, sled pulls, and just like with anything else, you could have those be done with variants of distance, with variants of loading, with variants of sets. You could put them in a mixed modality, multi-round workout. So yes, we could be able to do that. I don't have the gentleman right here speaking face to face, but what I would be curious to is how significant is this? For example, using the restroom, using the toilet is a squat. So is that something that this individual is able to do? That getting in and out of a chair, getting off and on the couch, things of that nature, those are still squats. Absolutely. They're just unloaded squats and generally in low volume. So I would be curious, really curious, if I had this guy in front of me, just to do a really good honest assessment and find out, is there any way we can work out any variation of the squat in there? He could potentially just be talking about a loaded squat, like, I'm never going to be able to squat heavy again in my life. Will I be able to be fit? And like I said, the answer is yes, absolutely. There's still a plethora of functional movements that we can embrace based upon whatever the limitations of the athlete happen to be, but let's not make any mistake about it. There are some things that if you do have to remove from your life, they are going to be missed, and the squat's one of them, the deadlift's one of them. There are potentially some other movements that we do, maybe something happened to you and you could do everything in the world, but you couldn't jump rope anymore. You'd probably be just fine. But squat, deadlift, things like that, multi-joint, big compound movements that move a large load, yeah, and those are just core functional, essential parts of life, raising and lowering your center of mass in a squat and then picking something up from the deadlift, yeah, those are not only going to affect your fitness, but there's a really good argument that they will dramatically affect your quality of life. And if you want to play this out all the way down the road, I mean, these are precisely the movements that we see a lack of an ability to do, put some people into assisted living homes and nursing homes, things that we used to talk about all the while at CrossFit Level 1 seminars. My grandfather lived his last 10 years in a nursing home, which is nowhere any of us want to be from what I could see. And he wound up going there because he had a stroke. But there was plenty of other individuals at that nursing home that, had you just looked at their charts, you potentially could have thought you were looking at a healthy human being. You wouldn't think you were looking at the chart of somebody who was living in an assisted care facility, because they had no problems with body composition. They had no problems with any of their blood work. They had no problems with their blood pressure. Why were they there? Basically feebleness. And they could not live independently because they couldn't navigate stairs. They couldn't carry their groceries to their car. They couldn't use the toilet. They couldn't get from a seated to a standing position without somebody's assistance. Basically weakness and feebleness, basically a loss of functional capacity, precisely what we used to talk about at Level 1 seminars all the time. And nobody is in a nursing home because they lost their ability to do the pec deck. People are in nursing homes because they lost their ability to do some sort of compound, multi-joint, functional movement that is absolutely mission critical to living a good, healthy life on this planet. And those are the movements that we want to continue to practice and put into our training so that we stay proficient at them for as long as humanly possible, and therefore live a high quality, fit, independent life for as long as possible. So if I see somebody that says, I can't squat at all, can I still be healthy? The answer is yes, but there's a big asterisk there, because nowhere near as healthy as if you could squat, and life demands that you squat. So that's just a bit of an issue right there. That's another thing, we used to say is, part of my job is also speaking with physicians a lot these days, and largely they're crossfitting physicians, so they kind of get it, but before they were crossfitting physicians, they weren't crossfitting physicians, and so most of them had the preconceived notions that most of us do, right? That squatting is bad, deadlifting is bad, but it's a really hard problem to wrap your head around. It's almost like a riddle. It's like, okay, without any basis of facts or knowledge, you just happen to think squatting's bad. Okay, great. You happen to think deadlifting's bad. Fine. Those are your personal feelings on the movement. But planet Earth and life and what you have to do each day has no regard whatsoever for your personal feelings and emotions about squatting and deadlifting. The world is just set up that you will have to raise and lower your body mass from a seated to a standing position. You have to squat. Period. End of story. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. You have to pick things up off the ground of varying loadings. That's a deadlift. No one cares if you like the deadlift or not. So there are just some things in the world that they're there, and we have to know how to do them. We have to have capacity at them, and we have to train them. And I've said this before in a previous episode, which was, I've certainly met folks before that didn't like the deadlift or claimed that they got injured because of the deadlift, that the deadlift injured them. Like the deadlift was a prowler, an assailant, and it came up, it clobbered them over the head, they fell down, and that's it, the deadlift did this to me. And then you watch said individual deadlift, and they have terrible form. They've obviously just never been taught the deadlift because they've avoided it their whole life because they were fearful of it. And so since they've never embraced the deadlift and they don't do it on any regularity, not only is their technique bad, but they obviously haven't strengthened the muscles to do the movement because they've been avoiding it. And then, so you've got weak muscles, bad technique, and then specifically, if I was coaching somebody and I'd try to manipulate their upper torso position, so maybe one of my hands is placed in their lower back, right where their spinal erectors are, where anybody who does deadlift and therefore strengthens the midline, you're going to find two strong strips of muscle going on either side of the spine to protect your spine and keep your back strong when you do have to pick things up. But in most folks who avoid the deadlift, if I would place my hand there on their low back and like another hand on their shoulder to try to manipulate their torso, the hand that I place on their low back doesn't feel strong strips of muscle. It just feels softness, quite frankly, because there's no strips of muscle there. So now you've got a weak back. The other muscles involved in the deadlift haven't been trained in any way, shape, or form. And you've never learned how to do it, so you've got terrible technique, but yet life still makes you pick things up off the ground. Well, of course you didn't have a good experience. Of course you were just a time bomb that eventually tweaked yourself. So, again, that's why we train. That's why we train the movements that we train. And anyway, so that's that. That's my answer to the question. And he also mentioned the GHD. Yeah, if you could, he mentions hinging at the hip is something which he doesn't like. But then again, maybe a GHD could work. If you could do hip extensions, hip and back extensions, and things like that on the GHD and be pain-free, then yes, I would absolutely encourage you and embrace you to do that. So that's my professional answer to that question. There's a mild rabbit hole that we can go down right now if we so desire to go down it. And that's the rabbit hole of, now since we're in the midst of the COVID-19 deal and most people in the world cannot go to their gym in their community and therefore have to work out by themselves, solo, in their garage, that there's a tremendous, I am hearing anyway, a tremendous lack of motivation. People are just having a tough time getting fired up and doing what has to be done. And I've done episodes before on, this very topic and how to motivate yourself if you've got a goal or desire, that those cliche phrases of, find your why and blah, 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 which there is value in that. There's value in that, okay? But, all right, fine. All right, we're going to go down the rabbit hole. It'd be a short rabbit hole, because I see somebody said, yes, we do need to go down the rabbit hole. I see Robert Travis says, yes, we do. And then Mooney says, rabbit holes can be fun. All right, so there's a place for that, right? Your lifelong desire is to be an astronaut. Fantastic, and well, that's a tough road. So you've got to do your research and you've got to look deep into yourself. Why do you want to pursue this challenging path? And you're going to have to make all these different decisions in your friends and blah 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 blah. Study in school and you've got to do that. And it's a nice long pursuit. It makes for a wonderful documentary on television. Blah blah blah. However, what we have going on right now, life has been disrupted and everyone's just a bit unhappy. Everything's just inconvenient. It's not what you used to be. Blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. Here's the thing. Just get out into the gym and do the darn workout. Don't make a fancy excuse. No one cares that your gym is cold. No one cares that you don't want to do it. Nobody cares that your couch is so comfortable. Just stop making excuses. Get your butt off the couch. Walk into the garage. Do the darn workout. Come back in. And that's it. It's just done. It's just a choice. You have to make a choice. Do you want to sit on the couch like a lazy turd and come up with all these excuses as to why you just couldn't walk 11 feet and do some burpees? Or do you want to just put the remote down, walk over there, and do the ridiculous workout. It doesn't matter if you have gear. It doesn't matter if you don't have gear. There is something that you can do, without a doubt, from any amount of gear in any amount of time. Bottom to bottom Tabata squats take 4 minutes and no gear. I don't think anyone can say, I don't have 4 minutes today and I have 0 gear. So I do my very best to be a wonderful and gracious ambassador to the community, but every now and then I think people just need a small sanity check, and just to tell them to stop complaining. Just stop. Just do it. There are people in the exact same situation that you're in, and as a matter of fact, I'm sure there are people in far more demanding situations that you're in, with, I don't know, financial strife that has hit their household, a single parent of 3 kids, whatever it is, and I'm familiar with some of these stories, and they're getting off their butt, finding whatever they have to do, and getting in the workout. And then there's some individual in their wonderful home whose life hasn't been that affected too bad, other than they can't go to their favorite restaurant anymore, can't go to their favorite bar, club, or movie theater, and there's just an amount of complaining and excuses that is absolutely nauseating. Nauseating. So, hey, you know what? If you want to work out, great. You'll be fit, happy, and healthy when this thing passes. And if you don't, I don't know what to tell you. It's not my problem. And it reminds me of a buddy of mine that I went through training with way back in the day, and I think I mentioned him before on a podcast. Well, I mentioned him before in a video, but this was before I actually recorded them, and they lived forever. And he was in the SEALs with me. He was actually my point man. I won't say his last name. He's a civilian now. His name's Bill. Great guy, fantastic guy, understated guy. One of those individuals that you would look at and it would be easy to dismiss him or dismiss his capacity, which was great. So Bill was fantastic. Again, he was my point man, and I get out. After I get out, he stayed in. We lost touch, and he went on to have a very great career in the teams. And he somehow reached out to me. I kept my same phone number. He reached out to me after more than a decade of us not having contact. We reunited over the phone. And it turns out he got out and had just finished going through medical school and was about to start his residency. And I was extremely impressed. And he did not have his college degree when I left him in the military, just had his high school diploma. And I was like, man, how is that? He's married now, he's got 2 kids, he's around 40, and married, 2 kids, just got out of the military and putting himself through medical school. And I was like, how is that? That's incredible. And this is what he said, and this is why Bill's a beast. He said, it's not that bad, really. And it's really not that hard. And I was like, really? I speak to people all the time, and not a lot of them discuss medical school as not being that hard. So, and you've got a wife and 2 kids, not like most younger people going through medical school that don't quite have those life responsibilities yet. So how in the world are you telling me that it's not that hard? And he's like, you know what you have to do, right? You have to pass the courses, and in order to pass the courses, you have to study hard. He said, so that's just what I do. It's just that simple. I don't make an excuse about it. I don't make a reason why I don't want to do it. I just do the studying, and then the tests aren't that bad. And he said, but he had the benefit of being, a 40-year-old with 20 years in the SEALs and that discipline. And he said, however, he's got plenty of his classmates that have literally no responsibilities in the world are struggling because they don't have the discipline yet. So when they're not in class, they want to goof off even though they know that they should do the work, but all their friends are going here, or all their friends are going there to catch the latest movie, whatever it happens to be. He goes, obviously I would like to go to those restaurants. I would like to see that film. It sounds very entertaining. He goes, but everything in life is a choice and a decision. And I've made the decision that I want to be a medical doctor. And so I'm not going to do any of those other things right now, because although they're fun and pleasurable in the moment, they're meaningless, pointless distractions that don't allow me to achieve the goal I've set before me in an efficient and effective manner. So I don't do them. It's just that easy. I just turn the switch off and I don't do it. He goes, and when I don't do that, I have a schedule that makes sense. Even though I have a wife and 2 kids and all these things other people don't, I have a schedule. And when it's time to study, I study. And I don't do anything else. And I don't stop until I know the material. And then I take the test, and I do well on the test. Done deal. And, I mean, the funny thing is, he sounds like a crazy maniacal robot. He's just a very discipline-driven, priority-focused individual. And that same sort of mindset you could apply to almost anything. Right now, if you want to work out, don't tell me all the reasons that you can't work out. Just go work out. Just make the decision. Look at the gear you have or don't have. There's so many free resources on the internet that you can find a great workout based on anything that you have. It's just on you. So don't blame your environment. Don't blame your schedule. Don't blame anything in the world. It is on you, which I don't think a lot of human beings like to hear in 2020, right? The personal responsibility is not really cool, but it's your fault if you don't work out. And it's your decision if you do work out. And that's really how it is with most of the other things that you want to accomplish during the day, but you don't because you made other decisions. So, that's it. Small rabbit hole. I still love everybody, but I think every now and then some straight talk is needed. So that's it. Let me check back over the comments and make sure when I was in my rant that I didn't miss anything. Okay. Looking good so far. Some high fives. Yep. Okay. Okay, that was the rabbit hole thing. Yes, and as Meg Barr, 1979. And you'll be happy that you did it for exactly. There's so many things in life that particularly in the moment may not be enjoyable, but you do it and you exert the discipline and the focus and shut off the other distractions because you have the wisdom to realize that the payoff is worth it. And it's the same thing with food, right? In general, most people would probably rather have a Dairy Queen Blizzard than a chicken breast. But you exert the discipline to have fewer of the Dairy Queen Blizzards and more of the chicken breasts because of the long-term payoff. I mean, everything is just a decision. Okay. All right, I think we're actually good. All right, fantastic. Have a great day today on Linchpin. Is that 3 rounds of time, 400-meter run, 3 rounds of Cindy, which is a beauty. It's a beauty. It's just pure fire. So you can stomp the gas pedal. All right. Talk to everybody later.